Am I recording? Hello? Hopefully I am recording. Okay. So I wanted to talk to you about keeping an experience log. This will be super helpful for whenever you work on your med school application, which is a couple years away, but like, you don't need to be worrying about it, but it's helpful if you do a few things now and upcoming time periods will make your application process go a lot more smoothly. And one of those things is keeping an experience log. So I'm going to tell you about it and why you should keep one. So first, I'm going to show you the AMCAS application. So the AAMC is the American Association of Medical Colleges. AMCAS is the American Medical College Admission Service. And so this is, if you are applying to an MD school in the United States outside of Texas, then you apply using AMCAS. If you are applying to a DO school, then you apply using something called ACOMAS, A-A-C-O-M-A-S. If you are applying in Texas, you use something called TMDSAS, the Texas Medical and Dental School Application Service. They all look different, but they all require the same kind of information. So I'm just going to walk you through a little bit of the AMCAS application in an effort to convince you that you should start to keep an experience log. So this is an application from a student. So when you send your application, you have an option to get a PDF copy back. And so sometimes I ask students for their copies so that I can black them out and share them with other people like I'm doing right now. So I might ask you all of which to say. Okay, so let me get back to the start of the application. So it will ask you stuff about you, stuff about your family, more stuff about you. You have to put in all of your classes individually, which takes a little bit, ask you some other education stuff, ask you about the MCAT. And then our section where you can enter your experience paragraphs. We're going to come back to this in a minute. You'll put in several of these. And then after your experience paragraphs is where you'll put in your personal statement, which is your big essay about why you want to be a physician and why you'll be good at that. But the personal statement is an essay, so it has to be cohesive. You can't have just like all these random facts that don't fit together. And so the rest of your experiences that don't go into your personal statement will go into your experience paragraphs, which are these dudes. Okay. And so this is the information that you need for your eventual med school application. Number one, experience type. This is a drop down and is not tricky, so we're going to skip that. You need name of the experience, which is something that you just create. You need information about someone at the organization who can vouch that you were there in case they have a question. So you need their name and title, their email, and their phone number. This can be personal information or clinic information, whatever you can get from them. And you have the organization name, like the clinic if you're shadowing, or the organization that you're volunteering with if you're volunteering. And then you'll have the dates, the total number of hours, and then you have an experience description. You will see that this description is pretty short. In almost all of your med school application writing, the space that they give you is based on characters, not based on words. And so you have to get really good at saying the most impactful thing in the shortest number of letters possible. And also you'll immediately become a one space after the period person if you were not already. You will designate a few of your experiences as most meaningful experiences. You'll check this little box and it will give you extra space to write more about that experience. Okay. So again, you will do this like fall, spring, your junior year, right before you apply to med school, the year before you start. So if you want to start like fall of your, what would be like your 5th year, then you apply like spring, summer, fall of your junior year in order to get in spring, summer, fall after your senior year kind of deal. Okay, so this is the AMCAS application. Which I'm not going to send you. I am going to send you these experience log questions, but wanted to show you the application so that you would be convinced that this was worth doing. So these are the questions that I want you to answer. Your log is just for you. I can look at it if you want. I cannot look at it, but it will really, 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 really help you with your application in the future if you have already started on this. But you do not need to make complete sentences because it's just for you. Okay. What kinds of things go in your experience log is any of your experiences. Of course, any shadowing that you do, but also any medical volunteering, like if you're a hospital volunteer, but you're not shadowing, any non-medical community service, like if you work, if you do elder serve or something else, if you have any TransServe activities, those will go in. If you don't know what TransServe is, ask me about that. I'll just tell you. TransServe is where you sign up with the Elrod Center here on campus to get your community service hours on your transcript. You should definitely do this. It's a really good deal. So any of your volunteering can go in here, any research, leadership, clubs, any really impactful classes, like pretty much anything can go in the experiences. And so you'll write down this, who can vouch for you and their contact information, like from the AMCAS. You'll write down when you did it and how long you spent. Then for the next part, it depends on if it's a shadowing experience or a non-shadowing experience. If it is a shadowing experience, you're going to write some notes that will help you in 2 years to remember what happened. Besides, like, it was great. Yeah. So write some descriptive notes. And then, because you don't know at the time if that experience will end up being one of your most meaningful experiences. So just in case it is, you want to go ahead and make yourself some remarks about what was the most meaningful part of that day or that week or that clinic, or however you're portioning this up. For your non-shadowing experiences, you're going to write down this stuff. What competencies are covered by the experience, how you demonstrated them, why they're important, and what this says about you. So let me explain to you about the competencies. Okay, so this, if you click the link on this link right here, it will take you to this page about core competencies for entering medical students. You need to be familiar with these. These are put out by the AAMC, again, the American Association for Medical Colleges. There's 15 of them, and they are essentially what the different medical schools are looking for in their students. And so if you know that this is what they're looking for, it's not that it changes what experiences you have, it's that it can help to shape how you explain those experiences to give other people an idea of how well-rounded you are. So this is why the competencies are really important. So let's say I'm going to go visit my family during Christmas. Let's say that you take care of my dogs while I'm gone. And so I'm paying you. Let's say I'm paying you. And so I don't feel like it would be service orientation. It's just dogs. So we're going to go with not social skills. I feel like technically they might be cultural competence, but people in med school will not think that that's funny. It'll just be you, so not teamwork. You could use the oral communication competency as you're talking to me about how to do the job. You definitely will use ethical responsibility. You have to make sure that the dogs are good, bring in the mail, stuff like that. Reliability, you have to feed them even if it's snowing. Resilience, you have to feed them even if it's snowing. Well, I don't think that you probably would use capacity for improvement. You might use critical thinking because Sophie can be very tricky and you might need to come up with some sort of alternate plan for her. So this is what you do. You think about the experience, you scroll through the list of competencies, and you figure out which ones fit to that experience. You write them all down. This is important. What competencies, because usually there's going to be more than one. Then for each competency, you write a little short phrase. Again, this is for you in a couple years, so you want it to be detailed, but it does not need to be a whole sentence, about how you showed that competency in this experience. The reason that we want to write down all the competencies is by the time you get to apply, you will have some sort of fixed number and type of experiences. Like you'll continue to accumulate those in the next couple of years, but when you get to your application, like what you've got is what you've got. But it's still going to be really important for you to showcase all these different competencies that you have, your different skills and abilities that will help you to be a good doctor. And so you don't want to write all of your experience paragraphs about your strongest competency. So if you keep this log and then under each experience, you write down like all of the competencies, then you can kind of mix and match them when you're coming to write your application. And you can say, well, I'm going to use like reliability for the dog sitting competency, but I will use problem solving for a lab research competency or whatever. And so you take your experiences and you select out of all the competencies that went with that experience, which one is going to not overlap with another competency from a different experience, so that when you come to write your application, you will have the biggest array of competencies possible presented. Hopefully this makes sense. All right, so after you write down this for shadowing or this for not shadowing, regardless of your type of experience, you're going to definitely answer these two. So let me share a couple other things with you. They're going to be paragraphs. So I want you to pause the video and read this top one. Okay, so pause the video and read. Okay, welcome back. Now that you've read the pre-edit one, this is a lot like how people have been trained to write in school, like all throughout public school or, elementary, junior high, whatever. It's kind of like what I did for my summer vacation essay, like about what happened to you. This is not the writing that you need for med school. The writing that you need for your med school application is more like this one, the post-edit writing. So go ahead and pause the video and read this. Okay, so hopefully you can see the difference between the pre-edit writing, which is mostly like facts about the experience, but does not tell very much about the student or their different skills and abilities or how they could be a good physician. The post-edit experience paragraph, which is about the same student and the same experience. Now this one feels like a lot more about the student. You get to know the student better. You have an idea of what things they're passionate about, relationships, listening, and then it could be easily translated into that, how they can use those to become a good physician. And so this experience description, where you include details about the experience, but the focus of the writing shifts from experience to you. This is more like what you need to write, this post-edit experience. So with that in mind, I want you to answer these two questions as you're keeping your experience log. Based on this experience, again, whether it was shadowing or not shadowing, what did you learn or how did you grow? And then how will this help you to be a good physician? Again, we have no idea what of this you will use in your application, but you'll end up using most of it because you've got your application writing and then you've got your interviews, which it's cool if you can have other things to say. And then when you apply to med school, the med schools will send you back a secondary application with more questions for which you will need to do yet more writing. It's kind of the same experience paragraphs, except they want to know, like, have you ever solved this kind of problem? Or what is the time that you worked with someone who is not like you, or something like that. And so you'll use this experience log quite a bit for different things as you are getting ready to apply and applying to med school. So start keeping it now because it's a lot easier to keep it now than it is to reconstruct all of this as you are also trying to study for the MCAT. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. Bye.